What is going on, YouTube? Coming back. Nice to get some smiles in for a little bit. Talking about Texas's Alamo Bowl loss, 27-20 to number 12 Washington. Actually, Tarik, ironic you mentioned that a moment ago with just keeping this whole train moving with losing. The Big 12, I think, is now like 1-4 in bowl games. It was Texas Tech beating the crap out of Ole Miss that is the reason why the Big 12 isn't winless in the postseason. So, but
Yeah. Joey McGuire really earned that 6-year contract extension.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised by that the other day.
Yeah, well,
they didn't pay him a ton, like by current standards at least. Anyway, yeah, so I don't think we need to dwell on this part too long. We will have the entire offseason to talk about this game, but let's go ahead and get some immediate reactions out of the way, some talking points that are going to be hot here in the next few days, because there's going to be some immediate takeaways and overreactions coming out of this that we'll only have a couple weeks to develop. And so, Shane, you weren't on for our last college football based show, so let's kind of get some of your takes coming out of this game.
Yeah, just not a fun game to watch as a Texas fan. There were very few moments of joy. One of those games where I'm almost glad that we don't have to see this team play for another 8 months or so. Obviously, that feeling will change, a month from now when I'm itching for more football. But yeah, it just wasn't an enjoyable watch at all. Definitely some bright spots, but I mean, all in all, definitely more negatives than positives. I think Quinn Ewers, I mean, we'll get into it, but Ewers, especially in the second half, showed a lot of progression, a lot of development that Sark has been talking about over the past couple of weeks. So that was definitely a good sign. But he wasn't helped out with the run game, wasn't helped out by his receivers. And oddly enough, pretty much the only contested catch of the game was Casey Kane with as time's expiring at the 50-yard line, bringing that ball down. So, I mean, Ewers wasn't helped at all. The defense kind of stood firm. I mean, if you told me at the beginning of the game you gave up 27 to Washington, I think you're going to win that 8 times out of 10, but could not get any semblance of a rushing attack. And I mean, that really hurt the Longhorns. I think we saw how much Bijan and Roschon meant to this team. We knew that coming into this game, but I think we all expected more out of, Jonathan Brooks, and he only had 6 carries. So it's partly on the coaching staff. I think you have to put some blame on the offensive line as well, who couldn't seem to get a push for any part of the game. Tark made a good point on one of the previous pods, noting how Texas seemed to wear on teams in the Big 12, and that rushing attack would just, balloon and burst in the third and fourth quarter. That wasn't able to happen tonight, and credit to Washington. I mean, they played well. They deserved the win. Nothing you can take away from them.
Though, to be fair, tackling a 225-pound Bijan Robinson and 25-pound Roschon Johnson helps a little bit too. So, speaking of which, my first thought is I don't know who that running back was for Washington, but there were a few runs where I thought I was watching Bijan. Like, he'd be stopped in the backfield. It's like, oh, we made the stop, and then he gets like 9 yards. It's like, where have I seen that before? I was like, oh, I remember. That's what Bijan usually does for us. Okay. Now we know a little bit how we've made other teams feel the past year and a half. Immediate reaction is, one, Shane and Andrew, we are vindicated by all the laughing that we said about Michael Penix not being this elite quarterback, because he is not the reason they won tonight. He did not play well. Penix played poorly enough that you would think, okay, you should probably have won this game. And now Washington has a lot better receivers than I thought. I mean, they made some crazy grabs, but like Penix being an elite player, I'm like, no, at least he didn't look like it tonight. So we can at least we won that one. Quinn, I thought looked very good overall. he wasn't perfect. He had some errant throws, and there were a few that were dropped, not just by Worthy, but that Whittington drop on that out run on third down. Those hurt. I think that there are certain players that you will notice as much by their absence as much by as their presence, and I think DeMarvion Overshown would have been very helpful on those crossing routes that got to us later. So that hurt. The good news is that bowl games are basically exhibition games, so it's nice if you win them, but it's not the end of the world. I feel exactly the same about this team as I did before. When you lose three of your best players and you're playing a top 15 team, that's going to hurt anybody. Obviously, there are people on Twitter who are, it's kind of, have these, some people are just saying, we're never going to win with Sark. It's never going to work now. He never beats these teams, even though he beat a top 15 team that eventually won the Big 12, I think a few weeks ago, but, maybe my memory's dulling me there. So I feel like the best thing you can take away from this game is that it looks like Quinn Ewers has gotten his mojo back. He'll go into the offseason as the starter. He can kind of rally and be the leader of the team along with some other people. Jatavian Sanders looked like one of the few people who looked upset that the offense wasn't playing well. I thought that was a good thing. On defense, you're not going to play great every game, but they weren't. It could have been far worse. Washington has, scored 40, 50 on people. You only gave up 27 on a bad night, so you'll take that. So you have a great recruiting class coming in. I have more questions at receiver now than I did 2 years ago, so that's not good. But that's where we are.
Yeah, I mentioned it in my takeaways piece too. I thought that this game was meant like a lot of the issues in this game were missed opportunities. Like just so glaring. The Terrence Brooks, if he had kept his hands on that ball, and kept his feet moving for one, it was a nice play by the Washington receiver to break it up, and it was a nice break on the ball by Terrence Brooks, but that drop pick, that could have set up Texas plus field, or like I said, if he kept moving and he broke the tackle from the wide receiver, then he could have been gone. Obviously the Worthy drops. JT Sanders had a drop tonight too, correct?
I don't think so.
Okay. Oh, Tarik, you're on mute.
I think he might have on like a quick screen or something like that. He didn't have a.
Okay.
And I think that was early. It wasn't a game-changing drop like the Whittington drop or the Worthy drops.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. The Worthy drops were obviously a huge difference maker. And I really didn't find myself coming away from any play that a Texas receiver made, again, being super impressed with what they did. And this team was just so devoid of playmakers at the wide receiver position throughout so much of the season. Extraordinarily disappointing in that regard. I would say, honestly, that the most impressive play, at least in the second half, from my memory for a Texas receiver, was Gunnar Helm picking up some yards after the catch. Damn near fumbled too. But yeah, so that'll be something we constantly talk about.
Which is weird. Why didn't we do that more during the season? Why was Helm not used more? He can catch. The guy's got good hands. He can.
Open. He wasn't an as advertised blocker from what I saw. JT was about as good of a blocker as he was throughout a lot of the regular season. And so I think for that reason, but I mean, yeah, he'll still probably be a starter next year. So, yeah, still will be important. Anyway, I thought that this game gave TCU vibes in multiple ways, where the defense played better in TCU than in this game. But I mean, the defense was missing Overshone. Ryan Watts was out for a lot of this game too. Don't forget that part of it. And like all told, it's just like I mean, all told, it was just a young defense, and I think when you boil it down, they played pretty well. Third down defense continued to be an issue. That is something that needs to get resolved during the offseason. They were 11 of 20, played better in the down the stretch, if not for holding Washington to 1 of 3 or 1 of 4 on the last few drives. That would have been pretty bad. The run defense wasn't great. I was a little disappointed in that. That first run by Wayne Talapapa, there was a missed read and a missed tackle by Jalen Ford that ended up being really costly. Jalen Ford was asked to do a ton in this game, so I'm not going to come away from this game saying he had a bad game, because there were some impressive plays that he made, especially in pass coverage, where he continued to get better down the stretch this season, at least in regards of pass coverage. But I wasn't super impressed really by any of the linebackers. Maurice Blackwell, I really don't like his fit right now at his current build at strong side linebacker.
That's going to be Anthony Hill.
Yeah,
next year.
I was hoping that Blackwell would kind of make an impact in pass coverage, or you can spin him down and get maybe some delayed blitzes, but it just didn't work. And Washington used that to their advantage. Easy blocks on him on the outside, missed tackles, at least a few. I was a little disappointed there. And then Ovie Gofu for the 99th game in a row could not collapse the freaking pocket. So many opportunities for him to just, sorry for the language, run horizontal, stop running vertical or diagonal. He made 1 or 2 where he actually was able to make a move and cut back toward the middle and almost collapse the pocket, and it made Penix step up and have some incompletions. But I guess we're done with that now. So, but anyway, I guess my last thought as far as the offense is concerned, because I thought Ewers played pretty well. Some freshman mistakes here and there, but I thought he was pretty good. I don't get it. I don't Jonathan Brooks, I thought was pretty good once you got him going. Washington stepped up, was better with their interior run defense than I expected. Our interior offensive line also was not good.
Did Keelan Robinson tell Sark either start me or I'm going in the transfer portal tonight? Because I didn't quite understand how he was getting that many. It wasn't even the carries themselves. I mean, Keelan Robinson in space is fine, but I didn't understand why they were running him up the middle on 3rd and 1. I was like, okay, what are you thinking? And then we did it multiple times. I was like, oh, I didn't understand that.
He can.
You use him like a utility player. That's what he is. You get him out in motion, get him the ball, let him do his thing. But he's not Bijan Robinson or Roshan Johnson or Jonathan Brooks. He's not a every down back.
Yeah, I mean,
and you certainly don't. Yeah. And I didn't understand why they kept leaving him in the block either. He wasn't helping in that regard. So.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know.
I guess I was looking like there. I was like, wow, they're really leaving him back there as a blocker.
Well, and we didn't do much with 21 personnel either.
No two back.
You could have done a lot with that. I didn't talk about it enough previewing, but you could have done a lot with that. But we didn't. Anyway.
I would say that sorry to interrupt, just the 2 things at running back that was noticeable. It did seem lazy. I mean, when you go down the depth chart, fully healthy. Keelan Robinson's the third back this year. That's totally fine. Like Tarik said, he's a utility guy. He's a gadget player. But when you're looking for a guy to start and who's going to get a bulk of the carries and who's going to pick up those tough yards on a 3rd and 1, 4th and 1, it's not Keelan. So I feel like it was lazy for the coaching staff to give him that starting nod. Or, I mean, even if they gave him the start just because, he's an upperclassman, whatever. You got to turn to Brooks and even Jaden Blue in situations where you need a more, downhill runner. I was surprised Blue really didn't get any burn at all. I think partly it was because Texas really just wasn't able to run the ball. But the way he was I'm a big fan of Blue. I think he's totally bought in to the program. But he was really gassing up the game on Instagram and Twitter, watch out, watch at 8 p.m. ESPN, tune in. So I thought he was going to be really involved in the game plan. He wasn't, which is, I think if Sark finds himself running Keelan Robinson out at running back a lot in 2023, there's going to be a problem, especially with Baxter coming in.
I mean, yeah, the top 2 running backs have to be Cedric Baxter and Jonathan Brooks, just in terms of actual handoffs. Keelan can do some damage with the delayed handoffs. He kind of scurries through, and he's better at hitting the hole than a lot of people give him credit for. And I do get the school of thought that Sark has there. There's a lot of film last season mostly, and some from Alabama where he does some damage on draw plays. He can, but on a 3rd and 1 when you're already getting stuffed, that's not a smart play call. The one thing that I noticed it in the Oklahoma State game. I didn't hear a ton about it for TCU, so I'm not going to say it there. But the Oklahoma State game and this game, when you hear that Sark is focusing a lot on passing the ball, and you're not hearing a whole lot about how we're going to be running the ball, then we're going to abandon the run game too early.
Okay. Last year we were talking about how Sark ran the offense that wasn't his normal offense when he had Casey Thompson as his quarterback.
Yeah.
I think there's something similar going on with Sark. Likes a certain style of running back, and he will only keep running the ball if he has that type of guy. So when he didn't have the guy he could give 20, 25 carries to, he just was okay, we're just not going to do it. Which is why I think a guy like Cedric Baxter, who actually recently, Jerry Hamilton and others were talking about how Baxter was saying he didn't tell FSU until 2 days before signing day that he was completely going to Texas. I think, Sark likes that big bruising running back, just like he likes big humans everywhere, except at wide receiver. And when he didn't have that, when he had Jonathan Brooks, who's a normal sized running back, but not the bruising guy, he just said okay, we'll use it, but otherwise we're just going to throw it. That just seems to be his way. If you looked at him at USC too, when he had Buck Allen and Trey Madden and guys like that, he likes those bigger, stronger runners to lean on the run game. That's how he likes to do it. So I guess I'm not shocked. I am kind of shocked that Brooks only got 6 carries, though. That was very surprising.
I get what you're saying. Brooks can. I mean, he's
2
not
touchdowns and he only got 6 carries.
Yeah, well, and if you remove 2 bad play call, or I'd say 2 bad, 1 bad play call, 2 atrociously blocked plays up the middle, Brooks had a pretty damn good game on extremely limited touches, which is what you say every time that Brooks gets the ball. Hell, even once this season, he's never averaged. This was the first game where he averaged less than 5 yards per carry when he had at least 1 touch.
Cowboys fan here, because he reminds me of Tony Dorsett. That's who he reminds me of.
I'm not, but I know what you mean.
Just he's got that perfect form, perfect everything. It's such a privilege to watch.
So
Shane, you're kind of quiet. You all right?
Yeah.
I'm going through like some of the box score. Washington ran 83 plays.
Holy cow.
Not one was negative. Not one negative play out of 83.
That's kind of their MO.
Yeah, I mean, going in, like Penix is, historically one of the least sacked quarterbacks. They said like of the last 25 years in the Pac-12, and we know Texas is all about getting pressure without actually sacking the quarterback. But just to see that is frustrating. And in the second half, it was death by 1,000 paper cuts, and it was their running backs, both of them seemed to fall forward every single play, like Targ mentioned, like a Bijan. So I actually I recommend this to anyone watching. In the second half, someone on Twitter tweeted this out, and I did it. I synced up the Craig Way radio call with actually watching the game on ESPN, and it was a really enjoyable experience. I forgot how much I enjoy listening to Craig Way. Only really tune into him during baseball season, really, but I think I might start doing that next year. But anyways, there was so many times where Way would be like, oh, and he's hitting the backfield and he squirms for an extra 3 yards. And it's like those add up. Washington stayed ahead of the chains very well. And even when they didn't, Penix and their wide receivers were able to make a play. So I think it's just a really frustrating game to go back and look over. Andrew, you mentioned the word missed opportunities. I think that's a perfect way to put it, because Washington certainly deserved to win this game, but it's not like Texas was far behind. So, yeah, I think missed opportunities is a great way to categorize that.
I just saw this on Twitter. So JT Sanders had 54 catches this season, and that's the most in a season by a tight end at Texas. So good for him.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully
he also was not used enough.
I don't think so, but I think he can be used more next season. Hopefully.
Okay, I mean, the thing is, all right, this is going to be a bad comparison because people might think I'm comparing Quinn to this person, but I'm not. You'll see where I'm going with this. Okay, the Kansas City Chiefs don't really have a number one receiver. Who's a receiver? Their best receiver is Kelsey. Texas was kind of in that same boat this year. I think Sark should have learned in the first 6 games or so that his best receiver was Jatavian Sanders, and he needed to kind of use him that way, and he didn't. And I think it hurt the team this year. Because that was something I remember someone tweeted out right after the Oklahoma State game. Like, what do you want to see in the second half of the season? And I said, I want to see Jatavian Sanders split out more and moved around more, kind of like in a Kelsey type of way, and used that way as a receiver. And I know he blocks and he's part of that, and that's fine. But Sanders needed to be treated like he was actually the best receiver, because he kind of was, in my opinion. So
yeah, I think Sanders is the best pass catcher on this team, whether or not Worthy and Whittington return. And like you said, he should be treated as such. I do think that the one problem,
and the fact that he was the only one who was angry at the lackadaisical effort, that should put a C on his chest next year. That's also something Sark needs to address in the offseason. Name captains. I don't know what is going on with that. Like, every other team in the country can do this.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I mean, I think we shouldn't go the whole video without mentioning Worthy and the frustration that he caused the fan base tonight. I think, to say the least, I think so. I've been thinking about this, and I actually really don't like being super critical of players, especially at the collegiate level. But when effort is part of it, I think then it all hands off the chess piece. And also when Worthy is trying to play the leverage game, NIL game, he's basically like a professional athlete. And if he wants to play that way, I think the fan base can totally be fine. I tweeted out, if Texas has an NIL collective and they have X amount of dollars and 10% of it's going to Worthy, could it be better allocated going somewhere else and letting him walk? Because if it works like that, like if there's a stringent cap and the boosters say this money's going to go somewhere else, I'm just throwing it out there because, man, I mean, regardless, even if he does come back to Texas, he could have a garbage year next year. He's not staying more than 1 year. And he's not one of those players that I feel like the fan base has really attached themselves to. He doesn't feel like a guy that's, like doesn't bleed burnt orange. I don't know. I could be wrong on that take, and it could just be some frustration here. But, man, when you look at Ohio State, some of the receivers they have. Like,
okay, I'm gonna pause you right there. Don't jump to comparing us to Ohio State yet. Compare us to like fucking Oregon. Start there.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's just frustrating when Worthy wants to be paid like the best receiver in the country, and he just isn't. He just flat out isn't. I mean, it's one thing to complain about bad throws, bad balls, whatever. When you get your opportunity, you got to make the play. 50% catch percentage tonight, 3 clear drops, game-changing drops. And, yeah, it's just frustrating. Which he, too, is definitely probably frustrated. I mean, at least I think he is. I hope he is. It's not like he's just out there not giving a shit, but I don't know.
Sark likes fast guys. Does John Burt have any years of eligibility left?
Yeah.
Please shut up. Don't even joke about that.
I'd like to hear your take on Worthy, Tarik.
Oh, okay. Okay, so when he first committed, I was very high on him because he does fit that type of profile that Sark wants, and he gets open. I mean, he was getting open tonight, and when he catches the ball and, he starts to do his thing, he's very explosive and fun to watch. I mean, he did some good things tonight. I'm going to try to be positive. Maybe this is the father in me coming out. So I know that Worthy can do it. This is something I was thinking about too. Let's do it with Quinn Ewers. I think Quinn Ewers has the arm where he can throw the ball anywhere on the field. That doesn't mean that therefore you need to throw deep shots all the time. I think, the quick game, those types of things, that was really more his forte. And if we had done that more this year, it would have been better for him. In a similar manner, I think that while Xavier Worthy can certainly take the top off the defense and take those deep shots, I think Worthy's better off you getting him the ball in space and letting him run than taking off down the field and him having to make adjustments and things like that. That's something that I've noticed all of this season. Sadly, Jonte Cook is similar in that respect. As I was watching him in the state championship game, he's got a lot of talent. He also has trouble tracking the ball on those deep shots. So I'm not sure if he coming in will really be the antithesis to what you think Worthy is now. As far as the NIL thing, Worthy shouldn't get any more money than he's getting now. They've taken care of him fine, and if he feels he's not getting enough, then he can go elsewhere. The person that we didn't when we lost Junior Angelau and Isaiah Nair, we lost 2 games with those 2 losses. I think Isaiah Nair is worth 2 wins this year, and Junior Angelau as well.
I said that exact thing at the beginning of the season. I was like, if win shares is a stat in football.
Here's someone we haven't been talking about enough, but I really noticed it this game. Sark always talks about, I love the big humans, that kind of things. Who was the guy who was really getting pushed around yesterday? It was Jake Majors, who's the smallest guy on that field, and Junior Angelau was going to likely be the center this year, and now he's going to go to Oregon and help them. So I think while people thought maybe there would be a big off-season QB battle, which there wasn't going to be anyway, I don't know how that really became to be a thing. I do think that Flood and Sark are probably going to look at center and there's going to be a fight there too. I think the entire offensive line with guys like Campbell, Nato, and Williams and others who aren't playing. I think there's going to be a bloodbath to see who's going to get the starts there. The only person I'm sure it's going to start next year is Banks.
Even Connor's going to find some spot to start along the offense.
Oh yeah, Connor. Put Connor at center. Give me a good center.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. Maybe Connor Robertson makes some strides. That'd be nice.
Interesting. But Shane, to answer your question, I don't. It's so frustrating seeing so many good like receivers from the state of Texas go elsewhere, and then like Texas can like never find a number one receiver when there's like so many other programs look around the country and it's like they have too many receivers and they're like trying to keep theirs happy. But for example, you talked about Ohio State. You know, they have Marvin Harrison Jr., who's amazing, Emeka Mbuka, Fleming, and now they have Enos and that other receiver, I can't remember his name, the other 5-star coming in. So they're doing great there. And what Texas has to hope is that either A, Isaiah Nair, his rehab goes well, or B, I think that DeAndre Moore is the guy to really look at next year because he's coming in early. He's got a lot of the traits of like if you blended Whittington and Xavier Worthy, kind of a strong-handed, but very fast guy. So I'll be looking forward to seeing what he does in spring camp.
Yeah, the one last thing I'll say on Worthy, and I'll leave it at this, is not to totally. So I think just a problem for me is like I mentioned this to Andrew before, but we saw how good he can be so quickly as a freshman that it's like, damn, when the immediate progression isn't there, it's sometimes frustrating. And when you have such a breakout season like he did when he was just 18, 19 years old, then the bar gets set really high. Another thing, even today, he started to like finish plays when he has the ball in his hands really physically and really well. Like he'll go straight at corners. He doesn't seem to ever go out of bounds. And I really like that. Like if he catches the ball, 10 yards down the field, he'll go straight into a corner. And even for being 165 pounds or so, he tries to go straight through him. So I do like that. And, it showed me he's still engaged today. One other thing of note from the passing game that I saw, this isn't air yards, but, just total yards accumulated through the throw. Washington only had 4 passes of 15 or more yards, which is pretty crazy, all things considered. And Texas had 10. That's another stat. If you just showed me that before the game, I would be like, okay, well, we completely followed up what Washington really wants to do. And Quinn is getting the ball downfield. How are you going to lose this game? But that just shows you that the script, wasn't as black and white as we think it was.
Yeah, I mean, it comes down to the ability to stop the run and inability to run the ball. And that was it.
Those are the things Texas usually did well this year was we could run the ball and stop the run, and this is the game we couldn't do it.
It was pretty straightforward. We got some progressions that we wanted to see from Quinn, so we'll take the positives there. And yeah, wide receiver got some question marks to address. We need some high-level impact player from the portal at wideout.
Who I don't think is coming, but yeah.
We'll see.
Well, I guess we can end it on this. A guy just tweeted out Texas, the season was a failure. I don't think the season was a failure. I think Texas took a step forward. I think you could really hang your hat on the fact that you were not blown out in any game. You lost every game by 7 or less. You were right. You were basically in all the games right until the end, even the TCU game when you really think about it. Losing by, like for example, if Johnny Barron kind of shifts over on Quentin Johnston, makes that stop, you never know. We'll probably still lose that game, but next year. But I will say this: your first 2 years as a head coach, I'm not really going to grade you on because there's so much going on. It's new roster, new turnover, trying to figure things out. Year 3 is where I really start to evaluate you. So this is where Sark really needs to make a statement next year, and I think the only way to do that is to win 10 regular season games or more and to win the Big 12. But I'm sure he kind of knows that too. So that's where we have to be next year. Obviously, you have Alabama in week 2. We don't know what the Big 12 schedule is even yet, so who knows? Maybe you won't have to play some of the teams that have given you the blues. Maybe you'll luck out and not have to play Andrew's favorite team. But we'll see how that all goes. But he's got to win.
Yeah.
Got to win 10 in the regular season, and I think he got to win the Big 12 because everything's kind of favoring you next year. Even though you're going to Tuscaloosa, you're going to be the guy with the returning quarterback, with most of the returning team, where Alabama is going to have a lot of turnover. They may even have a new offensive coordinator, have a new quarterback. You'll have Gary Patterson, PK, have all the time to scheme that game up. So I think this is the time to put up or shut up. Now, not in the sense of if you don't, you get fired after the year. No, I think Sark needs to get to at least year 4. But this is that's the standard for next year. So you got 8 months to get ready. So get to it.
Yeah, that's for sure. I don't mean to cut us off here, but we want to get this up tonight. We gotta get chugging along soon.
That's fine.
Really quick. Let's just straight off the hip, and then we'll dip out. What's y'all's grade for the season? I'll go B+.
B.
I'd go B too.
Weird that I'm the most optimistic of the group. That's not usual. All right, we'll end on a different note there. But yeah, we'll have plenty in the next few weeks as we get closer to spring ball. Be here before we know it. So, and basketball season stuff coming up. Big 12 opener on Saturday, technically tomorrow now. But anyway, for Andrew Miller, Tarik LaCour, Shane Black, headlines.com. That's pretty much it. Welcome.